Is there something about the Philadelphia Eagles that makes players walk away from the game for good? It's becoming an unsettling trend. Another veteran has just abruptly retired before even stepping on the field for us. This isn't the first time we've seen a newcomer call it quits shortly after joining our roster, and frankly, it's leaving us all searching for answers. Is it just a coincidence, or is there a deeper reason behind these sudden departures? Let's break down this strange situation and what it really means for our depth chart. Smash that like button, subscribe, and let's dive in. The Philadelphia Eagles are dealing with another sudden departure as Joe Tyron-Shoyinka has been placed on the reserve retired list. Signed in March, Joe Tyron-Shoyinka will not play a single down for the franchise. This development comes after he was a consistent no-show throughout the spring, missing both open OTA practices and mandatory minicamp. Joe Tyron-Shoyinka lasted less than 3 months with the organization before choosing to call time on his professional career. His path to the final roster was already narrow, as he was competing for a spot in a crowded pass rusher room. In response to his absence, the Eagles moved to sign A.J. Epinesa, who was identified as being ahead of Joe Tyron-Shoyinka in terms of talent and production. While his odds of making the team were long, they were certainly not impossible before he chose to step away. This decision marks the 5th instance in the last 4 years where a veteran player has abruptly retired after either signing with or being traded to the Eagles. It is a recurring trend that draws attention to the nature of player longevity in the NFL. When looking at this specific case, Joe Tyron-Shoyinka becomes the latest name on a growing list of athletes who have opted to walk away on their own terms. As fans often chant, "Fly, Eagles, fly," they now face the reality that this specific journey for Joe Tyron-Shoyinka has come to an early end. His decision follows a pattern established by other notable veterans, leading many to examine the various factors that influence a player's commitment to the game at this stage of their careers. The organization now moves forward, adjusting its roster depth while reflecting on this unexpected turn of events involving a player who never saw the field. The pattern of sudden retirements within the Eagles organization includes several high-profile names over the past 4 seasons. Myles Jack retired in 2023, just 2 weeks after signing, despite taking first-team reps at linebacker during his initial practice. Jack, who had been considering retirement before joining the team, ultimately left to attend trade school, though he later returned to the league with the Pittsburgh Steelers. In 2024, Devontae Parker signed with the team in March but retired in May during OTAs at age 31. Parker, a 9-year veteran who was expected to compete for the WR3 spot, cited a desire to spend more time with his family. The following year, Zadarius Smith decided to walk away in the middle of his 11th season. Although he had been released from the reserve retired list to allow for a potential return, his initial exit was sudden and occurred without a provided reason, despite his stated ambition to chase a championship. Additionally, the team traded for Jair Alexander in November 2025, only to place him on the reserve and retired list just 11 days later. Jair Alexander confirmed his retirement was due to recurring knee swelling, a physical limitation that prevented him from ever appearing in a game for the franchise. These instances, now including Joe Tyron-Shoyinka, highlight the different circumstances under which veterans choose to end their playing days. Whether driven by physical health, personal family priorities, or shift in career focus, each player arrived at the same conclusion. The commonality remains that these individuals were all established veterans who reached a breaking point, deciding that the grind of the NFL was no longer compatible with their lives or physical health. Regardless of their recent commitments to the Philadelphia roster, why does this matter right now for the team? This trend of abrupt departures directly impacts the team's roster depth and the strategic planning of the front office during the critical spring and fall months. When a player like Joe Tyron-Shoyinka or Devontae Parker retires, the organization is forced to pivot immediately, as seen with the signing of A.J. Epinesa to bolster the pass rush unit. For the current squad, these losses mean that the projected competition for roster spots shifts, requiring other players to step up and fill the void. The professional environment at the NFL level is undeniably demanding, and for veterans who have already secured their lifetime pension benefits through 4 accredited seasons, the motivation to grind through another camp can fluctuate. This matter is significant because it highlights the psychological and physical tax the sport takes on even the most experienced athletes. While the Eagles maintain a specific standard and culture, the decision to retire is highly personal. As noted, Myles Jack, Devontae Parker, and Jair Alexander all had distinct reasons for stepping away. ranging from injury management to lifestyle changes. When these players choose to leave, it disrupts the continuity of the position groups, forcing the coaches to reorganize their personnel plans. It matters because it illustrates the volatility of an NFL roster, where even signed contracts do not guarantee a player will be present for the opening kickoff. The team continues to operate in a high-stakes environment where the commitment of every individual is vital, and the sudden loss of veterans, even those in rotational roles, requires the organization to remain agile. It serves as a reminder that the roster construction process is not just about talent acquisition, but also about ensuring that every player involved is fully invested in the requirements of the upcoming season. The question of whether the internal culture of the Eagles plays a role in these retirements has been a topic of interest, yet it is important to maintain perspective. Conversations with players who have joined Philadelphia from other franchises acknowledge that the locker room environment is distinct. However, the organization itself is not to blame for the multifaceted reasons that drive an athlete to step away from the game. Football is a physically grueling pursuit, and the level of investment required to succeed is immense. If a player is not 100% committed to the process, it is a standard sign that it is time to move on. For veterans like Joe Tyron-Shoyinka, the transition to the next stage of life appears to be a personal choice made on their own terms. The statistics regarding pension eligibility are also a factor. Once a player reaches 4 accredited seasons, they achieve a level of financial security that can influence their perspective on continued employment in a high-contact sport. Jair Alexander, for example, had a clear physical impediment that made retirement a logical medical necessity. Za'Darius Smith's situation, while more ambiguous, similarly resulted in a player opting out of the grind. When players such as Myles Jack or Joe Tyron-Shoyinka decide that the time is right, it is a reflection of their individual assessment of their future. The organization continues to move forward, understanding that the demands of the sport are such that any player may decide to walk away if their internal motivation or physical capacity changes. The team manages these departures as part of the broader landscape of modern professional football, focusing on those who are present and ready to compete for the upcoming challenges that the regular season provides. Looking at the departure of Joe Tyron-Shoyinka, it is clear that his situation aligns with a specific narrative of veteran transition. He leaves behind an opportunity in the pass rush rotation that will now be filled by others, including A.J. Epinesa. The front office maintains its focus on building a competitive unit, acknowledging that these sudden retirements are a reality of the modern era. While Joe Tyron-Shoyinka never had the chance to demonstrate his impact on the field, the sequence of events leading to his placement on the reserve retired list is consistent with the team's recent history of veteran turnover. The Eagles will continue to evaluate their personnel as they prepare for the 2026 season, keeping their roster objectives at the forefront of their operations. The trend involving Myles Jack, Devontae Parker, Za'Darius Smith, Jair Alexander, and now Joe Tyron-Shoyinka does not indicate a systematic failure, but rather underscores the personal nature of professional athletic careers. Each player mentioned possessed the freedom to decide when their contribution to the team and to the sport would cease. As the organization moves past this event, the focus remains on the development of the current roster and the effectiveness of the players participating in camp. The team has demonstrated an ability to adapt, bringing in replacements and adjusting their strategies to ensure that the depth at various positions remains sufficient for the rigors of the schedule. For Joe Tyron-Shoyinka, the decision has been made, and he exits the professional game with his future beyond the gridiron now beginning. The Philadelphia franchise, meanwhile, continues its established path, remaining committed to its goals for the current season while processing the reality of players who choose to walk away on their own specific terms.